Hello and welcome to another new episode of Learning Simplified. In our previous tutorial, we had a general discussion on the meta name, keywords, description, viewport, and this sort of things. So all of those things were needed. In this tutorial, we had told you about that we will be discussing on this some of the rare tags used in HTML. Like this hr tag, ins and del tag, address tag, etc. But before that, I would like to say that in this tutorial, we are practically going to include some CSS file, actually we are going to link on CSS file into our project, into our HTML site that we have created, as we are continuing with this link href tag. So that is why it is better to stick into the final process of linking an external CSS file into our project and then talking about the rest of the HTML tags or those rare HTML tags. So just stay tuned. As we can see that from our previous tutorial, we had created this href tag attribute actually right over here, and we had used nothing, we just left it blank. So this is the next thing that we are going to do. First of all, we will be creating an external CSS file, and then we will be linking that external CSS file to the general index.html page that we have created. So we know that there are three kinds of CSS files right over here. The first one is the inline CSS, the second one is the internal CSS, and the next one or the last one is the external CSS. So I'll be rather keeping it short. In first case, the inline CSS, it looks something like this. If we type here for say a tag like table, then we need to put the width of the table. For say this is the width of the table. We may set this width to 600 pixels. Next comes the height. Similar fashion, we may put it to something like this for say 100 pixels. So all of these things, all of these style elements, those are practically coming along with the element itself into the same tag. So we might say that this is a table with some definite properties to it, like this is the width, height, and then next comes the cell padding, cell spacing, the border element. So everything comes within this same tag. So this is known as the inline CSS in case of an HTML CSS file. But if we now, instead of putting it here, if we just call in a table and put all the appropriate measurements into it, and next if we create a class name right over here for say it should be ABC, and if we put here some kind of properties, like first of all we need to mention the style. This is a style element rather than anything else. So this is a style element, and next we need to put it right over here. So this is practically the class name which we have created, and now if we put each and every properties into this part here .abc class name, as for say with 800 pixels and so on, the height attribute here, the height property here, we might set it to 100 pixels as we had said earlier, and next we may call this class name right over here, which will be known as ABC, the same class name that we had created here. This is a perfect example of an inline CSS in case of an HTML document. Now, external CSS is a part where we practically put all those CSS properties together. We practically write each and every CSS properties into a single file, and next we call them into the main HTML file where it is required in some exact or appropriate places. In that particular case, the CSS file that we have created earlier, it is known as an external CSS, and it is linked to the same HTML document that we have created. And this is the part that we are about to create right over here. So first of all, let's delete everything that we had created in this particular case, and let's make this individual table class disappear. So we are back into our project here in the same part from where we had practically initiated this class. If we need to link a CSS file here, then in the first place all we need to do, we need to create those exact files and folders, because href, it practically links a definite external source to the HTML document that we have created right over here. Now the actual syntax, it looks like folder name by file name, and next comes the extension name. First of all, we need to mention if we have placed our CSS files into some folder, then we need to mention that folder name. Then we need to mention that individual CSS file name here. Do not put this gap in between. And next we need to put this extension name. So the extension name here, definitely it would be .css, and we may set the file name of our own, and exactly the same way we may set the folder name of our own. So all we might do, this is the web project folder, that this is the web project folder, the root project folder that we had created for our project. And so far inside there is an index.html file. We need to create a new folder here which will be known as CSS folder. So we have created this CSS folder, and as the moment we had created it into our root project, we can see that in our text document here comes a CSS folder. Now if we click into it, right click on it and create the new file, we can see that a new file will be created which will be naming as for say style sheet. Or if you are not comfortable with it, then I might be referring it as style.css file. So we have created a style.css into this definite CSS folder, and on the other hand we have created this index.html here. So the folder name, it should be replaced with this individual folder name which is known as CSS. Is it capital? No, it is not capital. So here it goes. This is the CSS folder. And what is the file name here? The file name here is style here. And here comes this extension name. So we will be naming it as CSS. So there it goes. This is the complete, this is the source URL path which is known as CSS. CSS is the folder name, next comes the file name, and next comes this individual extension name. So all of them are being put together. In the next case, if we wish that we would like to see that this style.css which has been created so far is been linked to this index.html, then all we need to do, first of all, put something here like CSS document. First of all, let's see whether it is working or not. So in the first case, we will be putting here HTML. We'll be putting here this background color which is known as, this is the hex code. So we'll be putting this hex code here. Instead of putting something like this black or blue or yellow, we'll be using the hex code instead. Now we have put it here. Press Ctrl S. This is the index.html. Let's head back to our Firefox document, reload, and we can see that immediately this whole HTML document is now turned into a complete black, as we had mentioned that the background of this entire HTML document, it should be black colored. So we are now confirmed that our index.html, it is practically linked to this style.css here, and both of them are working properly. Now in the next case, we will be concerned about the rare HTML tags being used into our project.